Am I the antagonist for kicking my mother-in-law out of my house for being passive-aggressive about my husband cleaning up? My husband Tom and I recently moved into our house. Today we hosted our first dinner party with my mother-in-law, father-in-law, brothers-in-law, their wives, and sister-in-law. I took a day off from my business to make sure everything was perfect. I spent hours on my feet grocery shopping, cleaning the house, and cooking. By the time everyone arrived, I was exhausted, but I still entertained everyone because I was so excited to have them over. Everyone was having a good time, even my mother-in-law. I think it's because Tom and I sat at opposite ends of the table and she got to sit next to him. We moved to the living room to have dessert, and that's when everything went downhill. I was in the kitchen with my sister-in-law, plating up the desserts she brought and making more ice cream. A few minutes later, Tom came back and started clearing up the dishes that were on the table. I didn't ask him to do this, he's just like that. My mother-in-law heard us talking and came to the kitchen and saw Tom loading the dishwasher. She asked if he knew what he was doing, and he told her he did. My mother-in-law came in after Tom went back to the living room and said, "Puglovernoon 55, if you needed help with cleaning up, you could have asked us to do it instead of stressing Tom with it. He's not good at this sort of thing and he has had a long day at work. The key to a happy marriage is working together and making life easier for each other. Tom works so hard he bought this house and everything in it to make life easier for you. The least you can do is clean up." I told her I didn't ask for help. Tom just helped because this is his house too, and he wants to make life easier for me. I also asked her if she realized it wasn't 1993 because Tom isn't a baby anymore. He's capable of cleaning up. It's not rocket science. I told her we don't need marriage advice, especially from her because she mentioned making our marriage last while she's on marriage number 3 out of 7 at my current age. She called me angry and said I had no need to be vicious. I told her I'd show her vicious and I left the room. My mother-in-law followed me to the door and I told her to get out. She did, and then started crying. Everyone came to see what was going on, and I told them I'm tired of my mother-in-law and her nastiness that she tries to hide by being passive-aggressive. My father-in-law apologized for her, and I told him I don't accept. She can apologize for herself or leave. Tom and his brother Andrew told her to apologize, and she refused, so I shut the door in her face and went to the kitchen. My father-in-law and one of my husband's brothers and his girlfriend left soon after. The rest that stayed had a good time and left 2 hours ago. All hell is broken loose, and I'm getting messages basically calling me an asshole. I don't think I was, but Tom and everyone who stayed is biased because they can't stand my mother-in-law, so I don't know. Am I the asshole? It sounds like you put a lot of effort into hosting a lovely dinner party, but tensions escalated when your mother-in-law overstepped boundaries. Asserting your boundaries is important, but perhaps addressing the situation with more tact and empathy could have avoided the confrontation. Am I the antagonist for taking back a gift after I learned the birthday person would not be the one using it? My daughter Jenny, 13 years old, has a best friend, Morgan, nearly 13 years old. The two of them spend a lot of time together at our place. I do not know Morgan's mother very well, as Jenny doesn't often go to their house. This is mainly because Morgan's house is a little chaotic. She has 4 siblings. Jenny is an only child, and Morgan has said she likes the quiet. Morgan has done a lot of stuff with us. I occasionally enter radio online competitions and will win tickets to certain local events. When I won 4 tickets to a concert last year, Jenny and I brought Morgan along with one other friend. We all had a blast. Recently, I won another pair of tickets to a concert that I plan to attend with Jenny. A few days after, I was told about a work trip that I have to take that falls that weekend. Jenny usually comes with me. So Jenny suggested we give the tickets to Morgan for her birthday. She could either go with another friend or her mom. I checked with Morgan's mom before we mentioned this to Morgan, and she said that was fine. Last night, Morgan was at our house and she seemed upset. When I asked why, she said her mom was taking her brother to the concert because her brother has never been to a concert before. I asked if Morgan's brother even liked the band and Morgan said no, it was just the principle of the matter. Morgan and her other 3 siblings have been to concerts. He hasn't, and since they can't afford stuff like this, he gets to go. I found this unfair and honestly a waste of tickets. I called Morgan's mom to double-check this story and she confirmed it all, including her 11-year-old son barely knowing anything about the band. I said I'm sorry, but I don't feel right giving these as a birthday gift anymore as these were for Morgan. I said we'd give them to Jenny and Morgan's other friend who I know likes the band, and we'll get Morgan something else for her birthday. Morgan is fine with this. Morgan's mom is upset and says I'm trying to tell her how to parent. I don't think I am, because if a different friend gave Morgan the tickets and it was the same result, as terrible as I'd find her mom doing this, I wouldn't say anything as that's not my business. As I am giving the tickets, I want them to go to Morgan. I'd also perhaps feel differently if the brother loved the band too, but as he doesn't, I don't want to give them. So here I am left wondering if I'm being rude here? It seems like you had good intentions giving the concert tickets to Morgan for her birthday, considering her enjoyment of music. However, it's understandable to feel disappointed when the tickets end up being used by someone who doesn't share the same enthusiasm. It's important to communicate openly with Morgan and her mom to find a solution that feels fair to all parties involved. Would I be the asshole if I refused to attend family Christmas unless my parents did something for me and not for my adopted siblings? We have Christmas on May 12th. Family tradition, it's a whole thing. I'm planning not to attend unless my parents say they will pay attention to only me for something. A gift, a dinner, anything. My parents really like things happening exactly as they imagined them. If I'm not there, they will be upset. That's what I'm going for, I guess, because there's nothing else I can reasonably use except whining to get them to listen to me. I'm not going to threaten to not fix the shed or anything just because of this. Every single year my siblings get very personal, loving gifts that took time, effort, and affection. I've pleaded for years for them to get me anything similar. Not even anything on the scale they give my siblings, just like a $10 bracelet off Etsy with our last initial or something. Every time I do something, our parents are very careful to praise my siblings along with me. They are very devoted to the idea of making sure Autumn, 15, and Myrrh, 12, never feel insecure in our family, which is sweet, but they are not worried at all that I might be. Every reward I get, they get too. It doesn't work in reverse. My birthday is a celebration of all of us. Their birthdays are just about them to the point I was politely told not to tell anyone I got 100 on my Greek exam because the full focus should be on Autumn. Neither of these are really bad options, it's just a pretty sharp double standard and it sucks. The other thing is, only one of my siblings is actually legally adopted. Myrrh is still in foster care. It is incredibly unlikely her parents will ever get her returned. Only known parent is in jail until 2027, and she has explicitly said she doesn't want to go back. But there's always a chance, and there's definitely a chance she could get moved to another home. She shouldn't suffer just because our parents are heavy-handed and I'm immature. I think I could be the asshole because I want to intentionally upset my parents and risk ruining Christmas, and specifically one of a possibly limited number of childhood family Christmases for Myrrh, in a bid for attention. It sounds like you're feeling overlooked and unappreciated in your family, especially during special occasions like Christmas. It's understandable that you want your parents to acknowledge your feelings and efforts, but intentionally upsetting them may not be the most effective way to address the issue, especially considering the potential impact on your siblings like Myrrh. It might be worth having a calm and honest conversation with your parents about how you're feeling left out, in order to find a resolution that works for everyone. Am I the antagonist for failing to stop my mother-in-law from buying Landfill for my kids at a funfair? I went to a local funfair with my children and mother-in-law. We decided to walk around looking at all the rides before deciding what to go on. Mother-in-law had forgotten her wallet, so it would be me buying any rides. This let me relax about the sometimes tricky dynamic of who is paying for what. As we walked past a prize stall, pay money to win a prize, mother-in-law commented in shock at the high price, and I agreed. At the next ride, my husband joined us. He and I were chatting when we noticed that mother-in-law had gone back to the previous prize stall with the children. He asked urgently what I had agreed with her about that stall, and I, slightly confused at his urgency, remembered we had both thought it overpriced. I knew she didn't have money on her, so I assumed they had just gone back to look. We have disagreed with mother-in-law many times about her excessive, in our view, gifts for the children. Each visit, she buys toys that soon get discarded or more sweets and snacks than the children can eat. This is important to us because, A, we want to teach the children moderation and value rather than excessive disposable expenditure. B, we are worried about the environment and the excess of toys contributes to landfill. C, while she has the right to use her money, the amount spent on this stuff feels wasteful when it could be used for more lasting things for the children. Back to the funfair. My husband insisted I tell him what I had agreed with mother-in-law. We hadn't agreed on anything, I told him. We agreed it was priced too high. I then noticed she had taken out her phone to pay using her contactless payment. Husband said he didn't want her buying it, and I said he should go tell her. He insisted he didn't want to do that before finding out what I had agreed with her. I told him if he could see what was happening, he should go and stop her. By now it was finished, and I said, look, it's done now, it's her money to spend, and if she wants to have fun with the children by spending £15 sterling on a prize stall, that's up to her, and that I hadn't agreed on anything with her as I believed she had forgotten her wallet. After we got home, he picked a huge fight with me, telling me he was really distressed by the landfill of the prizes, the toys are already falling apart, and the repeated messages this kind of spending sends to the children about the value of things. His main complaint at me is that when we first saw the stall before he joined us, he insists I should have told mother-in-law not to buy it for the children, and the facts that A, I believed she had no means of paying, and B, had commented on how overpriced it was were not relevant. I still should explicitly have said that we didn't want her to buy anything. I think this is unreasonable and would have made things really awkward at what was supposed to be a fun outing. He says it's my fault that mother-in-law spent her money on poor quality prizes which will be landfill by next week. Was it my fault? While it's commendable that you and your husband are trying to instill values of moderation and sustainability in your children, it seems like a miscommunication led to this situation. It may be beneficial to have a calm conversation with your husband and mother-in-law about setting boundaries regarding gifts to align with your family values in the future. Am I the antagonist for no longer making stepdaughter lunch but putting goldfish on a tray for son? I have a 10-year-old stepdaughter, 2-year-old son, and an 11-week-old son. I've been in my stepdaughter's life since she was 2, and I make it a point to make sure she is included just as equally as my sons, as I didn't have a very involved stepmother, and I never wanted to make her feel the way I have growing up. I make sure to have equal photos of each kid around the house. I have a spreadsheet to make sure each kid gets an equal amount of money spent on them for each holiday or for college savings. I attend every one of her events and overall try to go above and beyond to make sure she feels included, and just as important as her brothers. We were planning to pick up my stepdaughter tomorrow evening, Saturday. It was supposed to be our full weekend, but her mother told us last night that she's got a last-minute dance event to attend on Saturday, so we said that's fine, and we'd get her just for Saturday night. My husband got a call from her mom tonight while he was out, and she said the stepdaughter doesn't want to come because there's no point. This is the first time she's ever refused to come over or wasn't actually eager to come over. Then she let him know that her feelings are hurt because I make a lunch for my 2-year-old son, but I don't make one for her. From my perspective, I've always made her a lunch, but within the last 6 months or so, she's started making her own here and there. If she ever asked me to make her one though, I would always do it. Even though I knew she was more than capable, I still never wanted to turn her down, so I would. A few months ago, my husband heard her asking for a lunch maid, and he told her that she's 10 now and more than capable to make it herself. Ever since then, she hasn't asked, and so I've never assumed it was an issue. Also, the lunch she is claiming I am making for my 2-year-old son is literally some goldfish, fruit snacks, and milk. I'm really not making him a lunch at all. Her mom even admitted that she's just being lazy, but my feelings are really hurt over this. Makes me feel like my effort is kind of for nothing. Is 10 still young enough that I should continue doing this for her? If so, what is an appropriate age to expect your kids to make their own sandwiches? Am I the asshole? ETA. I'm talking strictly lunch at home, not school lunches. I would absolutely pack her a school lunch if she was with us during the weekdays, but unfortunately we only have her on weekends. TLT, her 10-year-old stepdaughter told mom I leave her out because I put goldfish on a tray for my 2-year-old for lunch, and don't make her one anymore now that she's 10. It sounds like you've been incredibly thoughtful and caring in how you include your stepdaughter in your family. However, it might be a good idea to have an open conversation with her about how she's feeling and what she needs from you as she grows older. After all, even the most independent kids can still appreciate a little extra TLC now and then. Am I the antagonist for mocking my sibling for fighting with their child? My brother has a 9-year-old son. For about a year now, my brother and his son have been fighting. It's all kinds of awful and pathetic on my brother's part. It started when my nephew was doing his homework one day, and on one of his sheets, he had to answer questions. For a question about his parents, he said he has 2, and his mother is deceased, so he has 1 left. My nephew's mother passed away when he was 5, and my brother remarried 2 years ago. The stepmother took over the primary caregiver role, but sometimes my brother is home to help. This was one of those days. My brother and sister-in-law saw what my nephew had written, and my brother tried to correct him. My nephew refused to change his answer, and ever since, it's been a fight. I tried telling my brother that he shouldn't fight with his child over something like that. He should just let the relationship be whatever it is, and try not to make it such a power struggle. He told me his wife deserves more respect and recognition than that. Sister-in-law was so hurt that an 8-year-old didn't mention her in his homework. She apparently thought he loved her like a mother, and she was let down that he didn't even like her enough to add her to the homework. I heard this and suggested to my brother that maybe they needed to sit down and talk calmly, him and his son. But I was told that wasn't possible where this problem is concerned. It's been a year of this battle between father and son, and to me it's annoying. Mother's Day last year was crazy. My brother bought a card that said mom on it and my nephew tore it up. Sister-in-law was upset again that he didn't want to give her a card with mom on it, and it angered my brother. They couldn't stop talking about it when they showed up at the restaurant for the Mother's Day dinner our family had. I know this year will be equally crazy. Over the weekend, my brother was complaining about the fighting and saying his son tells others more stuff than he tells him. He also mentioned that people were judging him. I told him that, of course, they do because he's the adult fighting with his son for over a year, who is still a young child, all because he didn't want to write that sister-in-law is his mother and parent. My brother accused me of mocking him. I was incredulous and maybe a little sarcastic about some points. Am I the jerk? Am I the antagonist? It sounds like there's some tension in the family dynamics, but it might be time to lighten up on the power struggles and have a heart-to-heart chat instead. It's understandable that emotions are high, but finding common ground might be the key to diffusing the situation and avoiding future Mother's Day card drama. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.